Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC podcast presented by REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host today, Roman Chavez. Today we are doing something a little bit special. We're actually going to have a Batman Roundtable and talking about 80 years of Batman. And with the roundtable, I need a big crew, so we've got some special guests today. With me today, we have
Dave Williams,
Casey Duke,
and Erik Icarus.
Erik Icarus as always. So we've got some oldies but goodies as well. We're coming up on the 80th anniversary, which is actually in May, of Detective Comics 27, which is the first appearance of Batman from 1939. And, all of us are very interested in the character. There's not a single person in this room that doesn't like Batman, and I just really want to have a good conversation about that. I want to talk about a few things that we've kind of set in stone, but I just want to see where we go and talk about what Batman means to us. And really, just in general, I'd like to know your guys' kind of earliest memory of Batman. Dave, you can start us off. What was the first thing you remember about Batman?
Sure. To be honest with you, I can't quite remember what came first, whether it was Tim Burton's Batman from the 1989 movie or if it was the animated series. It's kind of a blur, but at the same time, that's when I was first exposed to it. And like many, I think probably all of us, the animated series was the one thing that really hooked me on to Batman as a character, and I've loved the guy ever since.
And Erik, you were talking to me about the '89 movie as well, and that was your kind
of... yeah, absolutely. That was definitely my first legit memory of the character. Going to see that with my dad.
Did you guys go see it in the theater?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being 6 years old, watching that movie, and then just being blown away by it, and just being like, oh man, I want to be this guy.
When you were that little, were you already reading some Batman comic books, or were you just kind of familiar with them?
I was aware of it just because my dad collected comics, so I was aware of the character.
Okay.
I had Batman sheets and stuff like that. But
gross, cool.
Yeah, I still have them.
yeah. You don't wash the look out of those.
It's like cooking on toast.
I think my first memory was the animated series, and actually now that I'm thinking about it, it may be one of my first memories. We didn't have cable growing up, but my grandma did. So when my parents went to go visit them, they'd throw me in front of the TV, and I'd sit and watch Batman the animated series. And like I said, if not my first memory, it's one of my first memories.
Wow. Yeah. Batman was the dad that raised me. Unlike Batman being raised by his father.
I'm not going to say that, but you can see what my head's doing right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Honestly, I definitely saw the animated series before I watched the Tim Burton Batman films. Yeah, that was so. I don't have it off the top of my head. That was 94 or something like that. 92 is when the animated series came out. So it was heavily inspired by the 89 movies in terms of tone.
Oh, and the music's the same too.
Danny Elfman does the music. Yeah. So yeah, that was. I think that show for everybody who was born from the 80s through like 96. Batman the Animated Series is where it's at, and kind of the core mythos of Batman. What are my favorite iteration of the Batman character? It might be the Arkham games, and that's Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. I really enjoy those video games because I feel like when I watch Batman the Animated Series, the games kind of grew up with me. It's a lot of the same voice acting cast, at least the two that matter the most. And it was very interesting to see that subject matter grow up. When Transformers movie came out, that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted the Transformers to grow up with me. I didn't want to see the exact same thing or the exact same camp that I saw when I was a kid, and that obviously didn't happen. But with the Arkham games, you got to live and grow up and see a new Batman story.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I will echo your comments. I think Kevin Conroy is the best Batman that we've had.
Hands down.
Mark Hamill, best Joker we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And the Arkham games, they allowed you to be Batman, right? You do remember watching these cartoons when you were growing up, and you wanted to be a part of it.
Oh.
You wanted to. I remember doing karate moves just because I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to be Batman.
Now throwing projectiles at your brother,
right? Right. Smashing my parents' face in because they're criminals. So you grow up, right? And then the first Arkham game comes. I think it's 2009. It comes out, and you're in this world, right? Going and fighting against Batman's mortal enemies, is Rogues Gallery, right? And it's just a unique experience, and I'm glad that they were able to do not only that, but 2 additional games.
Yeah, and much like the animated series, the video games gave you a plethora of villains. And it was so interesting to see that you could see the Scarecrow one week and, the Joker the next week. And actually, you don't even see the Joker until, several episodes in the animated series. But being able to see that and then see these kind of older versions of them in the Arkham games, some of them being very terrifying, was definitely a dream come true. It was nice to... I don't play very many video games, and those are ones that I have played. We were talking about the 89 movie. Eric, you were telling me that that's still your favorite interpretation of them.
It is. I don't know if it's because I'm looking at it through nostalgia goggles, but that's the one that sticks with me the most, just seeing it brought to life as a real person and just seeing it acted out, and not just through animation or on the comic book page. It was just, I don't know why it stuck with me. And I mean, it's still not a bad movie. Holds up pretty well. It's got that amazing goth deco thing going on in the city and stuff like that. And yeah, just love the character. It's not my favorite Joker, mind you. Yeah. But just, that's my favorite interpretation, just through the nostalgia value of it. It stuck with me.
I can't stand the movies. I can't stand the 89 and the Batman Returns. Yep. They don't do anything for me. Is Keaton still your favorite Batman then?
Other than the animated series? No.
Okay, live action.
Live action? Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer?
No, I'm just joking. No, it's probably Michael Keaton.
Val Kilmer's my favorite movie Batman. You guys can take that wherever you want.
Why?
Val Kilmer might be my favorite Bruce Wayne. My favorite Batman is actually Ben Affleck.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it.
He has the look where he's like a little bit larger than life, and I think the fight scenes are really well coordinated.
You just like the crossfitting scene. That's what you like. Where you training.
Yeah, like something about like when you see him moving around, like his fight scenes are very well coordinated. Where if you look at like Christopher Nolan's Batman, yeah, some of those fight scenes are a little clunky. They're a little weird, and I love the movies, but something about him's a little for me.
Yeah, but I still think that even the worst kind of action scene in any of those trumps anything that those Tim Burton movies and even any of the older movies do. But you're saying that you like that kind of older Batman kind of harkens back to some of the comic book stuff that you like in terms of Batman.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dark Knight Returns. Frank Miller's art is questionable at best, but his Batman is very blocky and very... almost looks like a monster. Okay. To be honest, like there's something about him. Like if that man came into the room, it would be terrifying. Yeah. But he makes a very, it's an animated drawn thing. It's a very scary, imposing figure, and I feel like the Ben Affleck kind of channeled that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a lot of my comic book credentials taken away in this conversation. I know that, but I'm actually not that big of a fan of The Dark Knight Returns. I like the idea of the story, the execution of it. I'm a big sucker for. I like some artists that aren't as popular, but Frank's art only works for me in Sin City. So when they actually did those animated movies of The Dark Knight Returns. Mm-hmm. I mean, they cut out a lot of the BS in there. Every time you would go to those newsroom scenes,
the talking heads,
the talking heads, 2-3 pages of just talking heads.
Yeah, if there's anything about it that kills that book, it's the talking heads.
It's a lot, man.
And I enjoy that iteration of it, but it's deeply flawed.
Yes. So when they did those animated, the Dark Knight Returns, the Dark Knight Returns 2, that was like seeing it for the first time the right way. And I love The Dark Knight Returns in those animated things. The story is exactly the same. It's just the way that it's presented to you is more digestible. And maybe it's because I don't, a lot of those talking head scenes, it's talking about news. It's trying to be like, oh, hey, remember this guy? And oh, Selena Kyle. It did nothing for me. And it was just like, oh, really pulled me out of this idea of the old grizzled Batman.
Definitely.
I think the Arkham games are definitely ring true for me. And then, I'm not going Batman the Animated Series all the way just because everybody loves Batman Animated. If you like Batman and you say, oh, I didn't care for the Batman Animated Series, you get all your nerd cards taken, in my opinion, because the Animated Series is the end all be all. I think we all thoroughly enjoy that. And there is fat, but it's fat you want to chew. It's fat you want to chew. In terms of comic books, we've got Dark Knight Returns, but Casey, that's not your favorite comic book for the Batman, though, right?
Yeah, and I was kind of torn between choosing for Hush and Batman All-Star and Robin, which is a really controversial thing to say. I know a lot of comic book fans hate Batman All-Star and Robin.
All-Star Batman and Robin is another Frank Miller story, but with the salve of Jim Lee art. So I don't agree personally, however, sell me.
What I really enjoy about it is you're seeing young Bruce Wayne, young Batman, and he's this cackling madman of a figure. He's karate chopping villains in alleys, jumping off rooftops, and he's having a grand old time. But he's also being a little reckless and a little irresponsible.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson's parents end up dying, and he ends up taking him. He kidnaps this kid, basically, and he kind of puts him through the ringer. And the way I see it is, a lot of people are like, Jesus, Batman is doing child abuse right here. I saw it as like, this kid is going to need to avenge his parents. I'm going to toughen him up right now.
Yeah.
And later on, the story kind of ends with this like very compassionate moment where Batman and Robin kind of hug each other, and there's a line, we mourn lives lost, even our own. And you see, as ridiculous as the Batman is at the story, it's kind of where you get the notion of like he's putting restraint on himself and he's kind of maturing as a character.
Because he's a new Batman at this point.
Yeah, he's brand new, and he's maybe being a little too rough with the criminals at this point.
Very much so. If I remember correctly, he may kill some cops in there, or at least allow them to die.
For sure.
And I'm not super into that.
And if there's one thing where you're like, what do you disagree with about this? It's 100% that. I think he kills 2 or 3 police officers.
Nah.
Not great. But the artwork is phenomenal. Maybe some of Jim Lee's best work. I really enjoy the cackling Batman, and then him also, growing up, you get to watch a character development for a character who's really well established. It's great to watch that happen. Wow.
I didn't care for the story. I like parts of it. That kind of solo Joker issue is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Great dialogue, and I think he does. Frank does get the idea of the Joker really well. What about you, Eric? For your comic book interpretation, like what do you go back to? You go back to the well when you're like, I gotta read Batman. What do you got?
Oh, it's Killing Joke. Hands down. It's
Alan Moore.
It's like the best.
Brian
and supposed to be the last Batman story, according to him.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a self-contained story. It wasn't supposed to be canon, and it became canon, right?
It did.
I'm not a huge comic book person, but
we definitely accept that. I think most fans accept that as the kind of pure Joker,
right? And it wasn't supposed to be. And what I think is genius about it is, there's a lot of debate at the ending if Batman kills Joker or not, and it's written right there. It's drawn right there. There's lines in the book where Batman says, "There's a line I won't cross."
Okay.
We're talking about killing people, and then at the end you see that they're laughing with each other, correct?
Yeah.
And they keep having panels of a line, and it's basically just light, but at the very last panel, it's a piece of Batman's cape going over the line. So that to me, and then there's no more laughing from Joker.
Yeah.
So that to me says he finally killed the Joker.
Yeah.
So he finally broke his one rule and corrupted him, essentially. So it's
when you pointed that out to me, and I must say, very recently, I've never been on that wagon that Batman killed the Joker at the end of it.
Right.
I never felt that way, but when you described that to me in those terms, Batman might have iced him, yo. I'm concerned. I kind of accept that as the Joker origin story, and I won't spend too much time on the Joker because that'll warrant its own episode.
Absolutely.
1940. So next year we'll be discussing our 80th then.
Oh yeah, it's got the best Joker story. It's got a lot of Jim Gordon moments. Great.
Got a lot of good Jim Gordon moments. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Jim Gordon doesn't get. I think every Batman fan likes Jim Gordon, but outside of the comic fans, I think people couldn't give Jim Gordon 2 cents.
No, for sure.
And it was funny. I had a moment where I was showing my collection to one of my dear friends, AJ. And he comes into my toy room, and it was very much out of the 40-year-old version, or when they were talking about who's the $6 million man's like
Oscar Goldman.
Oscar Goldman.
Yeah.
He's like, why do you have that? And he's like, it's rare. It's rarer than the $6 million man. I came down and I have Jim Gordon and Alfred action figures, and he's like, is that the butler for Batman? He's like, why would you have that? And it was almost verbatim my reaction the same way. Dave's not as into comics as the rest of us. However, he has read. If he's read any comics, he's read Batman comics. And what do you have to contribute to that? What are you feeling?
Right, and you're right, Roman. In fact, Roman, when I was still working with him at the same job, he had this theory that when I was a child, I was walking past a comic book store and I sneezed. And I looked away, and that's why I wasn't introduced to comics early on. And
in Earth 2, that Dave's a hardcore comic fan.
Right, and it's not far from the truth, right? For whatever reason, comics are great. If I could get in to collecting and doing what Roman has done, I definitely would. It's just I've come to an age in my life where I have to provide for my kid, and my wife probably wouldn't appreciate me buying all sorts of comics, even though I have
She's gonna sell it as an investment for the kids,
right? Right.
Yeah, your college fund.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then you get the kid attached to it, so then he doesn't want to sell.
Right. So now, no, that's a good idea, right? So I'll start buying comics for him, so he'll enjoy it, and then I'll enjoy it with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. If there are comics that I am reading, it does involve Batman, and I would get to the two. It was hard for me to pick, but I would say it's between The Killing Joke and Hush. Mm-hmm. What I really liked about, there's a lot of things that you could say about The Killing Joke, but one of the things that really stuck out in my mind was this notion of one bad day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that really connects the two characters. Connects Batman and Joker, and you sort of, they're different, don't get me wrong, right? One's a psychopath who's going to kill people, the other's trying to fight crime, but nevertheless they experienced this trauma, and it created them, mm-hmm. so to speak. Ultimately Joker fails at trying to turn Gordon into a crazy guy, but mm-hmm. nevertheless I think the point was made that it just takes one bad day, and I thought that was just brilliant writing.
Yeah, because like you said, you do see those kind of the antithesis of those two things. You do see Bruce choosing a life of justice in a sense. Still, being a vigilante is not justice. It's a kind of justice, sure. And then you have the other person that just let go and just said, you know what, nothing means anything. Mm-hmm. I think what I'm getting from a lot of this too is maybe Batman just sucks at killing people. Have we ever thought about that? Has that ever been like maybe he's trying, he's just not very good at that? And like the Joker is. And then with Hush, I think for my money, I could pick up Hush right now and I could read. If I start Batman 608, I'm gonna read through the entire story. I can't put it down. It's written by Jeff Loeb and drawn again by Jim Lee, who is just my favorite artist in general. And having Hush be this like mega 12-issue series that nobody saw coming. No, everybody's like, oh, Jim Lee art. I remember when it was coming out, I actually jumped on the book maybe 3 or 4 issues in. I didn't even start the book right away. And people were like, I was like, I gotta get it. I haven't picked it up yet. And then they started to get kind of hard to find. And again, we're talking about things that reference the, feel of the animated series, and you got every major Batman villain in that story, all drawn by Jim Lee, almost every version of the kind of the Bat family, the kind of supporting cast, and we just got to see so much. We got to see so much of what makes Batman tick. Now for you, Dave, that might have been the first Batman story you read. I think that was one of the first ones I gave you. I don't know if you had read any others.
Right? No, that was the first one, and it was great. Everything about it was great. I know it sounds kind of minor and maybe even silly, but I really enjoyed Batman punching Superman with his kryptonite ring.
Me too.
That was
satisfying too. I love seeing that too. That was great.
It's just, I don't know, what can you say, right? Because everyone kind of harps on Batman. Oh, he doesn't have any powers. He can't do anything, right? I think that's silly, right? I'm definitely in the camp of, Batman can take out anyone if there's given enough time and preparation and foresight and planning. That Batman can handle his own. Of course, we've seen that in other comic stories where he has contingency plans against other members of the Justice League, and because of that, it almost took him out.
Yeah,
and that's, I think, the beauty of Batman is that he doesn't need superpowers to be effective.
Mm-hmm. You could argue. I think you argue that money is a superpower. I think Casey would definitely argue that it is.
Oh yeah, it's a superpower, and it might make you better than other people.
That Superman Batman fight is one of my favorite moments in comics. It would easily have a top 10 spot as a favorite moment because it's all put out there. I like seeing Batman wreck shop, but I also kind of need an explanation on how sometimes. So that's where comics really work, where you get that inner monologue and you're able to say, he's able to tell us, okay, I've got the kryptonite ring on and it weakens Superman, but it's still like punching steel, I think is what he says, and which makes sense. And, he's talking, he's like, Batman says, I have Kevlar in my gloves, but like it only blocks so much. He's like hurting himself to kind of distract Superman in the story. He's using hypersonics. He's using, he had cut a gas line so that Superman wouldn't use his heat vision because he set the stage to fight under the Daily Planet, and the Daily Planet would probably explode. So being able to see those things, and they're not elaborate, lengthy explanations. They're just simple, like, okay, this is what I did, and this is what I did, and this is why. And it worked. It worked so well, and it set the stage for something that we all wanted to see. And we had all, again, in The Dark Knight Returns, we had seen the Superman-Batman fight, but it was not satisfying.
The fight's great, and I hate to bad talk Frank Miller, but the fight suffers from his artwork.
Yeah. There are times where we go from that kind of blocky to almost melting Superman and Batman to where the hits are just kind of like their anatomy.
Almost watercolor?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there's some sharp edges in there.
Yeah.
The art's very odd.
It doesn't work. It doesn't lend itself to good fighting. Whereas Jim, and it may be because of his love of kung fu movies or whatever, but the guy knows how to draw a fight scene.
Yeah.
And maybe it's still not anatomically correct in some things, but it always looks gorgeous. These lines that we cross that we don't cross as Batman, these imperfections in how he handles himself. What are some of the things, it's very easy to love Batman, but I do think that there are some things that I just don't like about the character. What are some things that you've seen written down, Casey, that you're just like, why is this a Batman thing, or I hate this about Batman?
So I actually like this about him, but I find writers, they drill into it too hard, and it wears on me. Batman is the single most paranoid character I've ever read in my life. You see him, pulling hair out of girlfriends to make sure they're not robots. You see him, he's building master plans to take out every other metahuman on the Earth.
Yeah.
There's something about that it's cool when the fight happens, and like, this is how I get the drop on Superman, but something I was also wary about it too, where it's just like, how many possible contingencies do you need to have?
There's another great Batman story that definitely merits discussion, and it's called The Tower of Babel, and it's just that exactly, where Bruce has these plans to take out the Justice League, and they're meant to incapacitate but not kill, and unfortunately, but fortunately for us, Ra's al Ghul gets those plans and definitely kind of turns them on the Justice League, and it's just this shocking moment for the readers where at this point we had always seen Batman's paranoia kind of coming, and to see his plans executed and how they hurt his friends was a very, very big deal, and it actually led to Bruce's expulsion from the Justice League. But yeah, I'm with you there. The paranoia of the character it's annoying.
Yeah, when you asked me that question, it was kind of hard because I'm 100% team Batman. So when I'm trying to criticize Batman, I don't want to do it, but I have to agree that paranoia factor is too much to bear sometimes, and I think that kind of bears itself out in some of the stories. I mean, there's a reason Dick Grayson didn't want to be Robin anymore, right? And part of that he wants to branch out, obviously, but part of that is probably a pain in the rear to partner and work with Batman because of how demanding he can be, how mistrusting he can be, how paranoid he can be, and that's probably what I would say is my problem with Batman. But it can also be like I said, a huge strength, right? Because these are metahumans, right? What if they did turn?
Yeah.
And there was a, I mean, I'm for some reason I'm thinking about there was a animated movie. I think it was Doom.
Yes.
Doom,
which is based off of the Tower of Babel
exactly,
storyline.
right.
That's
and
right.
at the end of it,
Justice League Doom.
Right. So at the end of it, Superman, talking to him, and he says, "Hey, what about you? Right? What if you were to go bad? What's the contingency plan?" And Batman still had the contingency plan in his mind. It was the Justice League.
Solid answer. I love that. And you knew it was coming, but it was so satisfying to hear him say it.
Right.
It's maybe for the fans, but it's what you wanted to hear.
Yeah. I just have this image of Batman's paranoia, like going into like creepy ex-boyfriend kind of levels, where like he's like, "Hey Dick, we gotta go out and stop the Riddler." And he's like, I got this test to study for," and Bruce is like, school first. But then he like drives by Dick's apartment, make sure he's there. Yeah, it's just like we don't even know the levels of paranoia.
Window rolls down, like, just checking. Drives up into the night.
Yeah. Hey man, just calling in to check on you. Hope everything's going okay. On the other side of the paranoia, Erik kind of has a different thing that irritates him about Batman.
Yeah, I think I'm going to change my answer initially, but
Let's do both though, because I love your initial answer.
Okay, well, I think it's his knack for essentially getting out of any impossible situation without any real explanation. It's just because I'm Batman.
Yeah,
I don't. That kind of irks me a little bit.
That's a superpower.
Fair enough.
because I'm Batman.
The worst part of Batman is the lazy writing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing that kind of bothers me is that he I don't think he understands that his very presence draws conflict.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't realize he's creating these rogues essentially. Yeah. So maybe the fact that he should kill some of them. I know it's his moral code and it's what separates him from them.
Yeah.
But
the fundamentals of Batman are so fallible. And in the fact that he actually believes the system can work. He believes that sending criminals to Arkham will rehabilitate
I think that's Gotham's fault, mostly.
And there have been some that have been rehabilitated, but I mean, you just can't keep sending the Joker back.
Right.
You just can't keep sending him back. The fact that, the paranoia you have, because I'm Batman, my kind of beef with Batman, because I love the Bat family. I love everything about it. And just like every few years, that story where Batman's pushing Robin away and Spoiler and Batwoman, it's just like, he's putting up walls and this and that. I get tired of that. It's like, no, dude, you're so strong because of your support system. Like, if he didn't have Alfred, he would. I don't think that there's a Batman without Alfred.
Well, that's his only tie to humanity.
Yes, that's Alfred, the tie to humanity and the tie to his parents.
Sure.
So, it's that kind of bothers me with it. Because I do think that I'm a loner, and it's like, dude, you got way more wards than Michael Jackson. Okay, you got a lot of people in your life, and you need them. You gain strength from that, and maybe it's less about how he pushes them away, but how it's like he always has to have that realization. Like, I do need you guys. We are family. Yeah, it drives me nuts.
Turns into a supernatural conversation at the end of every episode. Like, we are stronger together.
Yeah. We literally are talking about Lego Batman.
Yes, which
I never saw it. Is that the
shout out to my wife? She when I kind of told her about the subject of this podcast, her favorite iteration is the Lego Batman.
Oh, okay.
Voiced by Will Arnett. And we get comedy, we get ridiculousness, we get some kind of black comedy, dark comedy, however you want to say it. Where in the Lego movie, there's a Batman is actually dating one of the other Lego characters, and he's showing off his new sound system in the Batmobile, and it's got this like heavy bass, and he's like, this is an original song I wrote, and it's like terrible music, but it's like darkness. No parents, and it's just like a fun like riff on the character, and he's funny and he's ridiculous. There's a moment in the first Lego movie where they're talking about their kind of plan to infiltrate the bad guy of the Lego film, and they're like, okay, first we need to have Bruce Wayne go to Lord Business, and Batman's like, Bruce Wayne? who's that dude? Sounds really cool though. Like, it is just so meta and so fun. And the Lego Batman movie is great. If you want tons of supervillains and just ridiculous versions of them, it's totally worth a watch. It's the Batman movie you can watch with your 3-year-old.
There you go.
know.
And Will Arnett, no joke. He actually, I know it was a comedy, but he does a really good voice.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's really funny, and Batman's arguably the best part of Lego Movie 1 and Lego Movie 2.
Sure. Yeah.
It's fun to have that kind of iteration, and my wife wanted me to bring that up.
Sweet.
The Joker's pretty easy, I think, as far as everybody's kind of de facto favorite Batman villain. At least he's mine. But what are some other villains that you guys like? That if you couldn't have the Joker, if you see this guy on the cover, you're going to pick it up and read it. Go ahead, Casey.
The guy I'm most excited for right now is Onomatopoeia. If you guys don't know, he was created by Kevin Smith and Phil Hester. He was kind of a Green Arrow villain originally, back in, I think, Green Arrow number 12. And he kind of bounced back and forth. His whole shtick is he hunts non-super-powered superheroes. He appeared in a story arc called Cacophony and another one called Widening Gyre.
Both written by Kevin Smith.
Widening Gyre ended on the mother of all cliffhangers. I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone, but if you guys haven't read them, definitely go out and check him out. Anything with him, I would be so excited to see, because Kevin built this up so well and has not come back to it in 6 years?
Plus, probably close to 10.
Yeah.
Probably close to 10. Or more than 10, because I believe... Yeah, I think it's been, at least since Widening Gyre started.
Yeah.
It's been more than 10 years ago. Onomatopoeia is a fantastic character. I didn't know what an onomatopoeia was until I read that comic, I'm sorry to say. But onomatopoeia is this. Clap. The sound that clap makes, but like phonetically saying it, basically.
Spelled out.
Yeah. He doesn't speak. When he pulls guns, he goes... bang bang, and he uses weapons. When he pulls out a knife, he says, he cuts somebody, he says slit. Like, he actually voices the sound.
I did hear him go to the bathroom.
yeah, he's real awkward when you're trying to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah, visually very cool. Wears all black, has this black mask with a concentric circle on it. I think it's supposed to represent like a sound wave.
Oh my god, it is.
And it's this thing where we've seen images where like he's probably married, he probably has a wife and kid, where he's living this alter ego normal life, but we don't know anything about him. So I don't know if he's my favorite villain or anything like that, but he's the guy I'm most excited to see next.
Nice. Cacophony was going to be something that I brought up for my favorite Batman story. However, it's not my favorite Batman story because of Batman. It's my favorite Batman story because of the Joker, and I guess we'll talk about that at another time. Okay. Erik, what types of villains do you like?
The one I really most interested in is Victor Zsasz.
Nice.
Aesthetically, it's very cool. For those who don't know, he cuts himself, right? Mm-hmm. Puts hash marks on his body for the victims he's killed. Yeah. So needless to say, he has a lot. For me, he's the Joker without the theatrics. The Joker is self-aware enough to know that he's doing something bad. He's killing people. Zsasz thinks he's doing something good for these people. He thinks that life is so meaningless and it's a gift for these people to kill them. Like, it's a villain that Nietzsche would be proud of. And I just love... I think that he would be the reason I would probably get back into reading comic books.
Yeah.
So...
Unfortunately, they don't use him well, but he's always definitely in good stories. He's in Cacophony. He's actually the first villain we see in Cacophony, right? And yeah, I enjoy the character. He's a good vehicle for us to have Batman trying to save somebody before they die, Sure. And yeah, just seeing all the scars on his body, and we're talking head to toe, genitals and all, apparently. they definitely allude to that in many a book. Dave, I can tell, but go ahead.
Right. And this was sort of a difficult question because there's so many good characters to pick from. But definitely Ra's al Ghul, and it's not Ra's al Ghul. I don't care what Christopher Nolan says.
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul.
Christopher Nolan has an accent. I understand why he messed it up.
You don't like the Raz?
No.
Are you the Raz? Raspberry Al Ghul is what my father named me.
This is a quick side note. There was some. I mean, I love Batman Begins, but there's some silly stuff in there, like rattle some cages, right? Whatever. But Ra's al Ghul, that's his name. And then I picked Deathstroke. I just think he's a really, really awesome guy who is, can mix it up with Batman.
Yeah.
And then I picked an unusual sort of enemy, and again, it kind of shows you how I appreciate the fights between Superman and Batman. But I picked the communist Superman from Red Sun.
Nice.
And that's where I would disagree with you guys on the money thing, because that Batman was not rich. That guy was a freedom fighter, poor guy who was probably not. He's missing a few meals.
Yeah.
But he can still take on Superman.
Emaciated Batman. I like your first two there because I like how you kind of went Ra's, who's like every bit the detective that Bruce is with the arrogance, whereas like that's what makes Ra's a worse detective than Batman, is that he's arrogant. And then you picked somebody who was also kind of his physical equal, even though we know Deathstroke is a little faster, much faster, much stronger, but like he still has a hard time with Batman.
Not the tactician.
Yeah, he again, and I think that's another ego thing, like, oh, I'm Deathstroke, like I can do this as well. But the Red Sun Superman,
That's a brilliant answer.
It's a brilliant answer, but I argue that Superman's the hero of that story, and he was putting Russia on the straight and narrow.
That's cool, man.
With brain implants, and the Batman cough was was really stirring stuff up.
The clear heroes of that comic were Lex Luthor.
Yeah, you're right.
And Batman. So no, I better dead than red, as I say.
All right, fair enough.
I think that's what happened to Batman, right? So.
Yeah, he takes himself out. Which, if you've never read Red Sun, spoilers. Then, oh god, I love all of those. I can't disagree on any of those in particular. In terms of, I like them all. I like to read them all. I do think we need to give a shout out to the Condiment King from the animated series, just because it was absolutely ridiculous, and he has shown up in canon before, and it's literally what he sounds like. He has guns that shoot ketchup and mustard and mayo, and he throws pickles, and it's everything you want in an animated villain.
I thought they had an awesome one. Was the Clock King? Oh, I thought that was he in the comic book
Temple
lore?
Fugit,
or was he just part of the animated series?
They add him. I can't tell you if he existed before the animated series, but definitely that look I have seen in the comics.
Okay.
And they actually even gave Temple some slight meta powers. It's something ridiculous where he can see like 4 seconds in the future. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like that.
Now I don't like him.
But the animated one, I agree with you completely.
That was great.
Just a guy who was precise.
Yep.
And we even see him missing, Batman swinging on him, and him moving because he knows how long it takes for Batman to throw a punch.
Yeah.
And that stuff is interesting.
When
he evades him in the animated show by jumping onto the train as it's coming by, I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. Yeah, that was very good. I think some shout outs to the ventriloquist and Scarface is interesting.
Clayface too. Poison Ivy. Let's not forget the women here.
But see, I don't know. I never feel like Batman's in any trouble with like Poison Ivy or with Catwoman. Harley is the only one in the animated series who actually took out Batman. She actually captures him and uses one of the Joker's plans to execute, and the Joker is none too pleased about it. And it's just this great moment where Batman kind of turns them on each other, and then like lets Joker know, like, she had me. Like, I wasn't going to get out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like to screw with the Joker.
Really twisting the blade.
Yeah, and I dig that. I dig that.
Can we please do a shout out to my joke response, and that was Professor Pig.
I like Professor Pig.
He's cool.
I'm surprised you didn't go with him.
No, I couldn't do it. In fact, I really don't know much about him other than from the Arkham game. So that's why I couldn't really talk about him. But he's kind of silly.
He's silly, definitely, like, looking.
But he's deranged.
But he's deranged. Cool. Roman Sionis. The Black Mask. Black Mask is an interesting character. Batman's got the best rogues gallery.
Absolutely, hands down.
What do you think?
Hands down.
Hands down. A lot of people would counter with the Flash. I think the Flash has like fun rogues, but like I'm very concerned for Batman's well-being on a monthly basis.
And all of Flash's villains, like their gimmick tends to be speed because like it has to be. Where Batman's villains tend to be mental illness inspired, and that gives him a plethora of people to go against.
Agreed. And to the Flashpoint, his kind of rogues gallery doesn't really consist of like the speed guys. Like the rogues are
Gorilla Grodd,
Heatwave. Well, Gorilla Grodd's not part of the rogues, but it's like Heatwave, Captain Cold, Weather Wizard, the Pied Piper. Like it's these wiener guys that are still fun though. they're wieners, but they're fun, and they have this kind of shaky truce with the Flash where they don't kill in Star City. All right, or else they'll flash you.
I'll flash you, and I'll flash you, and I'll flash everyone in here.
I don't care who I have to flash. All right. Do you guys find anything that you can identify with Batman?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you identify with?
That's perseverance personified. Essentially, it's you can be Batman if you want. You know, you obtain that physical attributes he has, and you can be that smart. You can be a human computer if you want to. You know what I mean?
You gotta want it.
You gotta want it. That's the thing. It's willpower. You know, it's what it is.
Yeah,
Talk about a CrossFit it, baby.
Just scooping protein powder directly into his mouth, cracking eggs into his mouth. You know,
Does that work?
Let's find out, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
For podcast.
Yeah, we'll set that up for the next podcast.
Also, it's amazing that he's able to turn his fear into a weapon. Basically, it's not running from your fears, but embracing it head on and using it for the greater good.
To quote, I think what Batman Begins, bats terrify me. It's time to turn my fears on my enemies.
So yeah,
Paraphrase. Something
it's
like
time for
that.
them to know my dread.
Okay, it's I dig that. What about you, Case? Do you see anything that you can identify with from the character?
In some aspects, certainly. I think the way most comic book heroes, and especially Batman, are designed is they're the pinnacle of what humans can be. Batman is very much, he's a man of action. He's this very keen mind where he's both the world's greatest detective, but he's also using technology to beat his villains. Something about that is very admirable, and I think any man worth his salt is interested in being the smartest, being the fastest. I think a lot of the attributes that Batman has are things that we as people glorify. Something like that.
Do you think Bruce resents Clark and all of his just given ability?
I've never thought about it, but
I would say,
he kind of has to.
Yeah.
And even then, like, he has the physical attributes that, like, if Batman could flip a switch and be what Superman is, he'd do it in a heartbeat.
I don't think he would.
Oh, absolutely.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he would.
What easier way to fight crime than flying at the speed of light?
That's okay. Fair enough.
I think Batman also probably resents Clark because even though his Kryptonian family died, he very much grew up on a farm, loving mom, loving dad. He came from this very soft, plush background where, you could argue he's a billionaire, but he grew up in caves eating rats and stuff. Yeah. Bruce had a very troubled childhood growing up.
Yeah. The to kind of harken back real quick to the no killing clause of Batman, they're actually doing a story right now that you would be interested in.
Oh, yeah?
It's called The Grim Knight.
Oh, okay.
And it's a Bruce from an alternate Earth that when Joe Chill murders the Waynes in the alley, he drops his gun and Bruce picks it up and kills him right there as a boy.
Okay.
So he becomes his crusade, very Punisher-esque.
Okay.
It all involves guns, and it's kind of interesting because I love the crutch of it because he relies on guns so much. He's not nearly the fighter that our Bruce is.
Yeah.
So that's creating some kind of interesting. His look is absolutely ridiculous. It's all bat get up and then just like guns in every hoo-ha.
Wasn't that Thomas Wayne's gimmick though? From
Thomas
the
Wayne would use guns, but he was kind of the midway point. He was definitely about beating you up, and then I'll shoot you if I have to. I'll kill you if I have to. I'm not against it. Yeah. And to you, Dave.
Yeah, I think Batman is probably the most, is the one superhero you can identify the most. I mean, you look at all these other superheroes, and they are metahumans, right? They have powers, and those powers help them overcome whatever obstacles that exist in whatever story arc is going on. But to Eric's point, right, Batman built himself up into someone that can be effective, that can be formidable. And it was interesting. I was listening to the differences between movies that were made in the past where you have regular, individuals that have to overcome sort of these extraordinary odds. They have to better themselves in order to succeed. And we've switched gears, and to this day and age, especially when we see these DC films or these Marvel films, where the story is that, well, in order to defeat whatever villain or injustice is going on, you have to be a superhero. Mm-hmm. And I think we're kind of missing something from how we used to tell stories about, when you engage with these types of obstacles, you do need to rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always a good message that we should be sending, the audience. And I think Batman personifies that. This is a guy who rises to the occasion.
I like that. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. and I would disagree with you, Casey. I do think, and only because we've seen it in the comics where. And even in the animated shows where he has an opportunity to take an easy way out, be it, synthesizing Venom the proper way, to take out the madness, take out those things, to using magic where he just doesn't want to do it. Mostly because it's unpredictable. I don't think he would trade in, the cape and cowl for the super strength and all of that. But I do think that there's a road to where we're going to get those mech suit. Batman sooner than later. We have had a couple. I could see him being more of an Iron Man because I made this. Yeah. I did this thing. Right. But as far as becoming, being able to switch with Superman, I don't think he.
I don't think he would either because he wouldn't have anything to do. I think in a way vengeance is his thing now. I mean that keeps him going. And the second he can end it in a second. I don't think he'll survive.
Yeah, I think that he would look for conflict later on in life.
And I think that's maybe why he does what he does.
It's interesting, and to your point about villains and their mental instability and all of that stuff. I mean, we can't forget that this is a grown man billionaire who's chosen to dress up as a bat and
right. Well, he's just as psychotic as his
exactly,
villains.
Exactly. He's psychosis.
It lines up with society. Yeah, it keeps society in line,
direction.
I guess.
We're at 80 years of a character, which blows my mind. Is there another 80 years left in Batman?
Yeah.
How do you?
These are the new Greek myths. Yeah. These comic book characters. Mm-hmm. These are these are going to get passed down. I can see it thousands of years. People talk about Hercules and Thor. I mean, I know they're comic book characters now, but they're based off of myths from thousands of years ago. And because it's a great moral story. Moral stories don't ever die. Those get passed on forever. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's going to go forever, but certainly in the foreseeable future, Batman's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a larger-than-life character. We're seeing these larger-than-life stories where he's fighting these villains, but there's also very human moments where he's dealing with loved ones. And the way these stories unfold is both grandeur, but it's also very human. And something about that I think is addictive. I think human beings are hardwired to tell and to listen to stories, and as long as Batman keeps being that, he's going to keep being around in some form or another.
I think as people continue to like stories, which they have since the beginning of man, Batman's always going to be an interesting character that people are going to love, and especially with guys like us. We're having children now, and we're going to pass on what we like to them, and hopefully they'll take it up, and that seems like to be the model, right? For 80 years, you've had people that came way before us. They're like, "Oh, Batman's cool," right?
Arguably 3 generations of Batman fans.
It's been passed on, and I think that's going to continue because he's just a good character. It's a good story, touches on many issues that are just interesting to people to listen to and read about. I can't see a future where there wouldn't be an interest in Batman, and that's a future I don't want to live in.
Where do you guys want to see Batman go? I mean, we're kind of at this weird apex in the films where we have movies like Aquaman, knocking it out of the park, over $1 billion. And we've had 2 Batman movies hit $1 billion. But where do we go? Where do you see the motif of the character in film, and where do you guys want? What do you guys want from the industry to make Batman, fun again? I know we like we like parts of Ben Affleck, but Ben Affleck's gone. Matt Reeves taken over. We don't have a new Batman yet. But what story do you want to see, Dave, from the Batverse that maybe we haven't seen, or something you've read or know about that you'd like to see, brought to the forefront?
I'd really like to see an Arkham Knight, type scenario where he has to go to the asylum and he's got to fight all these fan favorite villains.
Oh God!
I mean, I think that would be one of the best things that we could ever see. That's what I would like to see, and I would like to see a Batman that's not in his 40s.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see a younger Batman for
Right.
sure.
And in his prime. I want to see a Batman in his prime who's going to fight all these other people that are causing a riot in Arkham.
I like the idea of an Arkham movie, and I think if you want to try to make, why do we got to spend $100 million, $200 million on a Batman movie? That should be the most low effect DC film that you can make is Batman. And if you want to do it cheap, you got to get into Arkham, and then you give us those tastes. Maybe we don't get to fight the entire thing, but we see Two-Face, or we fight Two-Face and Scarecrow and the Joker, and we see Bane and Ivy, and I agree. That would be a cool way to be like to gild that lily for future Batman movies, to see all of these, because I mean, really, we're kind of much like with the X-Men movies and some of these other comic book movies, where we're kind of regurgitating, we're rehashing. I love the Joker as much as the next guy, but I mean, I would like to see the ventriloquists. I would like to see Deathstroke, and I know that we've been alluded to, and that may be going, but yeah, I would like to see more of that.
I'd like to see the Bat family expanded on in the cinematic universe.
Agreed.
I think there, yeah. I think there is so much story to tell there that you have. I mean, just to introduce all the characters, you have at least 5 movies right there.
Completely.
At least.
The Bat universe can be more expansive than Superman.
I don't want to say the entire MCU, but man, you could do a lot with just the Bat family.
It can be more expansive than Deadpool.
No, fair enough.
There's great supporting characters. I want to see Robin from a young, mid-teen age. We get to see him grow. We get to see him become better, and then we get to see him become Nightwing. And I think you get 3 movies out of that, where we do a main Batman story, and then we get the fallout of Dick Grayson leaving and then becoming Nightwing, and then we start this new Bat story, and then maybe the Batverse becomes a mild Avengers universe where it's like, okay, in those Bat movies we did see Barbara Gordon, so we start to get those Batgirl, Easter eggs, and then we're doing Batgirl, Nightwing films. New Robin coming along, and then maybe there's death in the family, death of the family.
You get Oracle too.
And we can really set up a lot of these. It could be its own universe very strongly, and then every 2 or 3 years we have a Justice League movie where Batman is just doing his Bat thing on the Justice League.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from Batman in the
it's
future?
a little out there. I want to see some of those Elseworld stories. Like Dave was talking about. I want to see a Red Sun movie. That would be interesting. Or Gotham by Gaslight. Just go crazy. I think people would watch it.
I think they would too, and I think that you could do something like maybe we want to see... Oh, give me somebody. Who do you want to see as Batman, just off the top of your head?
Matt Damon.
Okay, Matt Damon. We do Gotham by Gaslight with Matt Damon. And then he only has to do that one movie.
Yeah, there you go. See,
and then we do...
It's a contained story.
And then we get, Khabib Nurmagomedov to play the Russian Batman, Like, you wouldn't have to be like, oh, we're going to sign you to these multi-Batman deals. It's like, no, we need, what's-his-face who played Howard Stark? Dominic Cooper. You're going to do Gotham by Gaslight. You're British.
Wow.
You've got that voice. You can have that look. We can do stuff like that. And it's it's kind of like Watchmen and V for Vendetta, where we can just have these self-contained movies that don't need to expand.
Right.
I could totally see that.
I think we might be kind of getting that with this Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Have they elaborated? Is it part of the DCU?
As far as I know, it's
or
not.
is it its own thing? So
as far as I know,
kind
it's
of
not.
getting this sort of, but I don't know.
I want to see the Joker again in continuity before I see him in, getting his own film.
A 1980s gangster movie? Is what it looks like?
Yeah, like late 70s, New Warriors, Goodfellas type feel. I don't know. Not that I'm, going to poo-poo it by any means, but I'm not... like, let's get Batman figured out first, and then let's start doing some other stuff. Like, I don't need to get ahead. You know? Yeah. You don't get any extra points for giving me a Joker story I can't use later.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it just speaks to the problem with Warner Brothers, right? They cannot figure it out. I think they obviously want to try and mimic what Marvel has done.
Yeah.
But they're just terrible at it.
They are.
I think, the one time I was most excited about a DC movie was it was after Superman, right? So when they did the Man of Steel, I should say. When we were at Comic-Con and they announced Batman versus Superman, I was like, oh my god, this could be really great. And then we saw that it was.
That it was
to be fair, the
not
trailer
right.
looked really good.
The trailer was
The
great.
trailer looked great.
And the announcement that we saw
was right.
That I can't remember that actor's name.
Yeah,
he played
he was the general, right?
he was the general in the Matrix 2 and 3. He's been in other things, but he read an excerpt from The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, that
like
the man that beats you.
Yeah, the man that beats you with my hands around your throat, and whatever, and it was great. Like, that was better than the Batman versus Superman
It brought
film.
down the house, right?
Yeah.
So everyone in Hall H, they were like, "Oh my God, this is great!" Right? Something we can look forward to other than another Marvel film.
Yeah.
Not that anyone hates Marvel. It's just we want to see Warner Brothers do something good with DC. And then we saw the movie, and hey, let's be friends because our mom shares the same name.
Let's have two Marthas, right?
And I don't want to harp on it because I do like Batman.
Elements of that movie are so good.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
There are
The warehouse fight.
The warehouse fight. That's probably
I don't know.
the
That
best
was like a
fight
video
scene.
game to me.
I love
Maybe
it.
that's why I didn't like it. Maybe that's why I didn't
I
like
thought
it.
it was fantastic.
It looks a lot like the Arkham fight.
Yes,
scenes.
yeah, okay.
I think that was the best fight scene in a Batman movie.
Yeah,
That's true too, though.
So whatever. I don't. They got to figure it out at Warner Brothers.
It's funny because Warner Brothers' best movie or most highest grossing movie is Aquaman, and it's because they copied the Marvel platform.
Yeah.
They copied and pasted, and then boom, they got $1 billion movie. So I'd like to see them maybe do something original if they can.
I think
They tried.
I think a couple things we need to hit on in terms of Batman films. We do need to get better fights, and the best fight is in that Batman vs Superman movie. Like, we need to when you read comics, like, you're rarely ever concerned that Batman's not going to win a fight, and maybe it's more realistic in the movies when he's kind of maybe a little laboring through the fights. But I want to see him be too much for some people, and I also want to see him solve crimes.
Yeah, the detective aspect.
The detective aspect is greatly missing from a character that is called the world's greatest detective. I know that Matt Reeves is saying, is going to be a hard-boiled noir film. Okay, let's not swing that pendulum too far either. Like, if there's weak fights in the movie, I'm going to be irritated as well.
Right.
I need good fights. I need some detective work, and I need him to solve something without Lucius and Alfred.
You don't like him getting fingerprints off the bullet casings in a brick wall?
No, yeah, that just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not a detective. I think Batman can go on for a while. I don't know if it's another 80 years because some of these things just aren't going to matter in 80 years. Who knows what the morality will be of society? Who knows what... and before you question that, think about what the morality was in 1939 and where we are today. So...
Well, constant truths are, don't kill people. And that's kind of the basis of the book. That never goes away.
Sure, but also he did slap women in the old days in those books. So
maybe we bring that back.
Yeah, maybe things come full circle.
Only when they're hysterical.
yeah, in an open hand, not a closed hand. We're quoting Sean Connery. Please do not write complaints to us.
Yeah, very sorry.
Well, guys, I think that we hit on a lot of the points that I wanted to. Batman is on the Mount Rushmore of heroes. He's in that conversation for everybody. Even if you hate Superman, you like Batman. And I think that we've been fortunate enough to grow up in the time. Excuse me. We've been fortunate enough to grow up in this time where we have it in animated media, in television media. Excuse me. Sorry. In film, in comics. Video games. We literally can't turn around without hitting Batman.
You can't find a medium to not enjoy Batman.
Yeah. So I'm happy for the character. I'm happy for everybody involved, and we get to reap those benefits. Is there anything else you guys like to say about the character?
Oh yes, the Bat Tootsie.
The Bat Tootsie. I mean, let's shout out Adam West.
I know.
Adam West, shout out, bro. R.I.P.
Exactly. And that's the other thing that I grew up on for whatever reason. I think it's just my parents had that movie lying around, that 60s Batman movie, where you actually saw a good number of villains in that movie, which was crazy, right? So yeah, I thought it's a ridiculous movie, but it still holds a special place in my heart.
Is the movie that has the Bat Shark repellent?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
Yes. And
sweet.
Yes.
I do own an action figure of Adam West doing the Bat Tootsie.
Yeah, he does.
Just,
Yeah, he does.
just so you know, it does exist. And you should buy it.
Remember when Batman danced?
Yeah, he doesn't dance anymore, you know. As is kind of tradition with the REC podcast. Eric, what'd you learn today?
I learned that I think Batman needs to start hitting women again.
Jesus.
Joke. I don't know.
Open hand. You have to mention that.
Open hand, no Kevlar. Yeah. We do not advocate hitting women on the REC podcast.
No, I'm just joking. I'm just playing.
We do advocate for Sean Connery.
Yeah. That guy can do whatever he wants. What about you, Casey?
What did I learn? I don't know.
You didn't learn anything?
I
It's okay if you didn't. You're not on the spot.
learned what you guys like, but I don't know if any new information was poured into the library.
There you go. Dave?
Yeah, I learned that you guys actually like Professor Pig.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, there you go, right?
There you go.
I'm embarrassed. Professor Pig's a blind spot for me.
Well, we'll
he's
talk about
twisted.
Professor Pig after the show then.
All right, please.
I learned that what I enjoy so much about Batman, and I didn't actually interject on this earlier, is I enjoy the Bat family, because all of those characters are they're all very different people, and much like this roundtable discussion, we all have very different backgrounds, and we all have very different views on life, views on comics, views on whatever, and we do all have a common shared theme, and that is a love for Batman, and that is their love for justice, street justice. And I think that when something like this, something that's as ridiculous as a man in a bat suit fighting crime, can reach this many different people in different ways, we all get something different out of Batman, with the exception of the animated series. We all think it's gold. I think that speaks more to the character than anything else, is that it appeals to all walks of life, and is that storytelling that you were talking about, Dave and Eric, those things that can be timeless. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today on the REC podcast. If you like what we're doing, please hit subscribe and click the like button. And if there's something you'd like us to talk about, please comment below. We would love to have some type of interaction with you. So for the podcast, I have been Roman Chavez.
Dave Williams.
Casey Duke.
Erik Icarus.
And thanks for listening.